Hey there! Welcome to another review, this time of the 2016 comedy Bad Moms. Now, Bad Moms is a film that I pretty much saw a few months ago because I think it was Mother's Day, and I wanted to watch something with my mom, spend time with her, and she had a good time with it, and so it was worth the watch just for that alone. It was a nice gift to my mom for Mother's Day. Um, and ultimately, it wasn't. I'd say it was. I liked it more than something like Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, but I wouldn't really call it a great film or a memorable comedy or a classic comedy. But it's definitely an unexceptional, below average comedy. It has its moments. It can be a time waster, but it isn't really a film that I would really watch again. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a total piece of shit. So this is kind of a hard review to do because it's like, I'm not really the target audience for this film. The target audience for this film was clearly females, clearly women. They would probably get more enjoyment out of the movie and probably be able to appreciate a lot of the things that it does more than someone like myself. But I think I found some enjoyment out of it because of the cast, and there were some crazy scenes that I thought were genuinely hilarious, like the scene where the moms are going in and they're drunk off their ass and they're going around and going on a shopping spree in a supermarket, and it's all in slow-mo, and it's got hip-hop music in the background, and it's just insanity. So I do remember that because I thought that was pretty funny. And, there were certain lines of dialogue which were nice little back and forth between the girls. I really thought Kathryn Hahn stole the show as Carla. And there were some good villains, too, that you definitely did love to hate. The stuck-up PTA ladies. The head of the PTA, Gwendolyn James, played by Christina Applegate, who was wonderful as always. And I also liked how her character was not one note. Her character actually was a human character. They showed that she was not just a one-note villain, that she was actually human. She was dealing with a lot of stress with her family, and it actually did a decent job actually managing to actually make you sympathize with her character by the end of the film. And ultimately, she ended up becoming an ally. So I find that really somewhat unique because a lot of the times it's just a stock villain. They're one note, they're evil, that's it. She's an evil bitch, and she's always an evil bitch. But there's actually a change of heart, which I did like. You even have J.J. Watt, football player for the Houston Texans. He has a little cameo in the film as the coach of a soccer team. You also have a cameo by Martha Stewart herself. Yes, that Martha Stewart. And it's a film that isn't, like I said, it's not very exceptional. It's not really a remarkable film. The direction by John Lucas and Scott Moore is solid, but it's nothing spectacular. It's hard to believe that two directors directed this, to be honest. It's about as directed as well as a Lifetime original movie. Maybe a little bit better, but nothing really amazing. It's also written by John Lucas and Scott Moore, and there are some moments where it's kind of enjoyable, but it kind of goes where you think it's going to go. When it doesn't, it's surprising. It's a welcome surprise, like the villain not being one note. But there are other things, with the relationship-wise, and how the writers portrayed the men in this, I didn't really like. It was a lot of the men were really weak and were just, I don't know, it just seemed like they were very weak, and they were made to be, they were forced to be weak, like a strong man was forced to be weak and carry a stroller around because I guess he wasn't really, he was a dick to his wife, but at the same time, it's just, I don't know, it's the imagery with that kind of thing, I just think was a bit forced. Just to show, oh, now you get to experience what it's like to be the weaker sex. It just felt a little bit, yeah, very forced and just wasn't funny. The uncircumcised jokes, I don't really, just really didn't really do anything for me. Yeah, oh, the women could be just as crass and gross as the men. Yeah, they're talking about uncircumcised penises. If this is a guy who's talking about it, I'd still think that was unfunny. Um, it's a lot of these comedies. This is not one of those comedies where a lot of it's the crass, crude humor, and sometimes it's funny, and sometimes it's not. And this is better than something like the last film I reviewed, Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, because of the cast. I mean, it was a good cast. I got to give the film credit for that. I mean, you had Mila Kunis, who actually was a likable character. She played a good lead. She was charismatic. She was enjoyable. I was not really the biggest fan of her as an actress in any of the other films that I've seen her in, but she was good here. She was a character you definitely did sympathize with and you rooted for. Kristen Bell was good as well as Kiki. She was this kind of just, Mila Kunis was this mother who's trying to do everything right, trying to be the best mom that she can for her kid, dealing with the PTA, dealing with all that shit, and then eventually, things just start to fall apart for her, and she just meets these two other moms, played by Kristen Bell and Kathryn Hahn, and they eventually decide, let's be bad moms. And the whole sort of message is, you don't have to force yourself to be something you're not. You can still be a great parent if you swear every now and then, or you're unconventional. And do whatever's comfortable for you, and do whatever you feel is best for your child. And so, and also they learn some responsibility, when not to be too bad, and so on. So, there's some fun to be had with these uptight moms letting loose and enjoying themselves and going crazy and so on. But that's kind of when the fun kind of ends, because then it's kind of just a typical romantic comedy, and then there's a romance that's involved, and Mila Kunis is falling in love with this guy, and she wants to get together with him, but there's drama that happens, and then eventually they get together, and it's that typical kind of thing that you see in this type of film. But like I said, I was not really the best audience. I was not the intended audience for this movie. But I did have some fun with it. Um, but yeah, I'm not going to go through the synopsis. There's really no point to it, if you ask me. It's a pretty straightforward plot. It's just the typical, these moms have dealing with a lot of stress. Their husbands are kind of dicks. And they decide to stand up for themselves and let loose a bit, and some craziness ensues, and then decide to stand up against the PTA and the villain of the piece, played by Christina Applegate, and they decide to set up pretty much convince Mila Kunis to run for the PTA president, and she ultimately does, I believe, win, and she changes things around, and of course there's this lot of conflict between Mila Kunis and Christina Applegate, because the two characters become enemies, and so you have some sabotaging going on back and forth and so on, and there's drama about, oh well, Mila Kunis isn't going to make it to the PTA president election thing, and she eventually does make it to it and has a speech. It's supposed to be inspirational, and it's full of swear words, but it actually has a good message to it, and that's the thing. The film has a good message to it at its heart, and there is some heart to it. It's just not what I'd call a remarkable or really memorable comedy. There are some moments here and there, but I wouldn't really say I'd watch it again, or rent it, or buy it, or anything like that. It's not really a time waster for me, because I can't really see myself watching this again. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely worse comedies out there that came out in 2016. But this is another, just, it's not as aggravating or as obnoxious or as loud as Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates. The acting is better, the directing is better, but it's not by much. The story is a bit more engaging, but at the same time, it's still the same old shit. The same old, just, below average comedy, which seemed to be the norm for 2016. except for rare exceptions like films like Deadpool and Keanu. But Keanu, honestly, after I watched it again, I still enjoy the film and I do find it fun. But I don't know, it just doesn't, with repeated viewings, it doesn't seem to really hold up as well as something like Deadpool. Deadpool is consistently funny and entertaining because there's not really a gimmick going on. Keanu kind of is a gimmick movie, and the cat is cute as fuck, but the comedy in it kind of doesn't really resonate as well with repeated viewings. So I'd probably have to knock my rating of the film down a little bit. But I still would say I would get Keanu again, or watch it again over Bad Moms. But, you know, people like this movie. It was a huge hit. It could cost about $20 million, and it made $179.4 million in the box office. So it was a huge hit. There's going to be a sequel. So I guess look forward to that. And if you enjoyed Bad Moms and you loved it and you had a good time with it, then I guess you're going to really enjoy the sequel, hopefully, and I hope you guys do. I just can't say I was a huge fan of this film, but I didn't hate it. It was there at times, but other times it wasn't, and kind of didn't keep my interest. And the whole stuff with the romantic angle just lost me. I just was not interested or into that at all. And the comedy could have been a bit more consistently funny. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about Bad Moms except it was a rate out of 5 stars. I'd give the movie 2.5 out of 5 stars. Just a notch below average. Anyway, thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you guys later. See ya.